You were saying about Dottie's.
Yeah, they had a riding club. Her and a few of her friends. They're still close friends today, although they live all over. But they would go out riding every day after school, and they would rent their horses to the movies. So a few of them are different movies. I don't know specifically the other movies her horse did, but I know in The Greatest Story Ever Told, her horse Black Magic is the one that Mary rides into Bethlehem, I believe, at the very beginning of the movie. And so she did that. And then a lot of people in town have done different stuff with the movies because there's been so many movies in town. Did she tell you too much? I mostly know like some of the backstory of how our family ended up in Moab. I don't know if she told you too much about that. But my grandpa, her dad, during World War II, he was a pilot, and he was actually in one of the first groups to land in Pearl Harbor after the attack. So he learned a lot about flying and stuff like that, and when he got out of the military, or back from the war, he married my grandmother, who was a nurse during World War II. She was actually a military nurse. And they moved around a bunch, so each one of my mom and her sisters and stuff were all born in a different part of the country. So like one's in North Carolina, one's in South Carolina, Texas and stuff. And I believe they were living in Texas at the time. And when my grandfather was young, he was sent to a high school boarding school. And his roommate at that school was Charlie Steen, who was the guy who found all the uranium up here. He had the big boom in the Maivita Plateau. And so when they were living in Texas at the time, I believe my mom was about 6, Charlie Steen hunted them down in Texas and hopped out of the car. And I believe how my grandpa told the story was he was just like, "I'm rich, Pete, and I want you to fly my planes." And so they all moved out here, and they were actually living south. I believe when they first moved here, they were living south of town at the old airport, which is now just a giant empty space. They would allow dry camping sometimes, but there used to be houses out there, and it was the main airport for the area. And so they lived there for a while, and then after that they lived at what is now Moab Springs Ranch. A lot of older people will call it Grand Old Ranch House, just like we call Sunset Grill Maivita. I have to get this.